is the CBS Sunday Night News. Bill Plant reporting. Good evening. Japan's ruling party survived a public furor over sex scandals and an unpopular tax in today's election. The Liberal Democratic Party, which is actually on the conservative side of the political spectrum, held on to its majority in Parliament despite a vigorous challenge, as Bill Whitaker reports.
They're still counting the votes, but even before the final tally, Prime Minister Toshiki Kaifu painted in the traditional sign of victory, proclaiming the ruling Liberal Democratic Party's continued control of the powerful lower house of Parliament. This despite voter displeasure with taxes and recent scandals. The other big election day winner was the Japan Socialist Party, which racked up impressive gains. But socialist gains came at the expense of other opposition parties, which lost seats this time.
This was called a pivotal election that would set Japan's political course for the 1990s.
Observers say voters grudgingly stuck with the status quo.
So this decade is a much more politically tentative and ambiguous time for Japan, and the opportunity for change is still there.
The LDP's victory is no mandate. Their strength in the lower house was weakened, and many voters have lost faith. This morning, Japanese television went searching for voters' remarks. I didn't want to vote for the LDP, says this woman, but many Japanese voters did, deciding, whatever their reservations, to stick with the tried and true. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Tokyo.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney is in Manila tonight for talks with the Philippine government on security issues. But as Bruce Dunning reports, the usually cordial relations between Washington and Manila are strained, and Cheney won't be seeing President Aquino.
The secretary arrived to warm weather but a cold welcome. American VIPs usually get a presidential audience, but President Aquino decreed that Cheney should meet only with his counterpart, Defense Minister Ramos. Filipinos are furious with the Bush administration for arbitrarily cutting $96 million from a signed military aid package. The move plays into the hands of Mrs. Aquino's worst enemies. Her chief rival, Juan Pansenrile, calls the aid cut a no-confidence vote from Washington.
From their viewpoint, she's on the way out, and second, that she has no leverage whatsoever to deal with them.
Before Cheney's arrival, the president journeyed far from Manila, presiding at the graduation ceremony for the Philippine Military Academy. It was her most public confrontation with the Army since the recent coup attempt.
Your solid leadership of the Cadet Corps last December in support of our duly constituted government was in no small measure crucial in turning the tide against our enemies.
She must convince the military to stay with her and give up dreams of seizing power. Mrs. Aquino must also convince soldiers and civilians alike that Washington is not about to abandon her. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Manila.
Rebel sources in Colombia say that 3 Americans kidnapped last week are to be freed tonight. The 3 Americans, a businessman, a teacher, and a priest, were seized to protest President Bush's presence at the drug summit in Cartagena. Still ahead on the CBS Sunday Night News, Czechoslovakia's new president comes to the United States. And in South Africa, another round of anti-apartheid protests.
A good way to lower your cholesterol is to eat more fiber as part of a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet. And one of the best sources of fiber is prunes. Prunes, the high-fiber fruit.
How fast does Dristan nasal spray start to work?
Faster than a teenager can answer the phone.
Dristan spray pump works fast to relieve congestion, even sinus pressure. For relief...
Faster than tumbleweed in a tornado.
Dristan nasal spray. It's faster than...
The great Folgers switch. It's happening in homes.
I can't believe I pulled the switch on him. I did it.
I always enjoy
at work.
Pulling little pranks as long as it hurts nobody.
And all across America.
Made the switch and he liked it.
People who thought they were drinking fresh brewed coffee were secretly switched to dark, rich Folgers crystals. And we're putting their stories on TV.
I thought it was perk coffee from the moment it touched my lips.
I fooled you, Gerda. I fooled you.
Call this number to get a valuable coupon so you can try the switch. Your story could be on TV.
Romanians are growing impatient with their new government, saying it's not much better than the Ceausescu regime. Today, hundreds of angry demonstrators stormed government headquarters and assaulted the vice prime minister. The army moved in and made more than 100 arrests. In Lithuania, a member of the Communist Party's ruling Politburo predicted today that the Baltic Republic will pull out of the Soviet Union by the end of the year. Last week, Lithuania's parliament nullified a 1940 vote which made it a part of the USSR. The reunification of Germany will be topic A when West German Chancellor Kohl comes to Washington this week. The Bush administration made the U.S. position clear today, as Wyatt Andrews reports.
President Bush today reaffirmed his insistence that any unified Germany be part of NATO, and that strong Soviet objections to that idea haven't changed his mind.
So we're just going to stay with it.
The U.S. is sticking to its position because it does not think the Soviet opposition is final. A West German delegation which met Mikhail Gorbachev just last week got no hint of Gorbachev's objections.
Our impression was that Gorbachev hasn't made up his mind yet what the future status of Germany should look like.
Secretary of State Baker today said the Soviets may even want U.S. forces to stay in a united Germany, the implication being the U.S. would help protect against a resurgent German military.
I think, without putting words in the mouths of the Soviets, that they see the stability that is afforded by the continued presence of United States forces in Europe.
A consensus has developed that all of these strong Soviet objections to a unified Germany inside NATO are just part of a tactical gambit, a negotiating position eventually to be traded away in exchange for some future guarantee of Soviet security. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Kennebunkport.
In East Germany, historic elections are fast approaching, but as far as the campaigning goes, correspondent Bert Quint tells us the country is taking things slowly.
Election fever hardly seems to have hit Potsdam, where Soviet troops based here enjoyed a Sunday off sightseeing. Hard to believe that East Germany's first free election in decades, one that will set the stage for unification of the two Germanys and a likely shakeup of both NATO and the Warsaw Pact, is just a month away. Polls indicate this man, allied with West Germany's leading opposition party, the Social Democrats, will be the new prime minister, not because he's well known, but because his party got off to a fast start. Ibrahim Berma is pretty much a mystery man. Orphaned during the war, he says he thinks he is of Jewish origin. If he is, it would be a dramatic development to have a Jew as leader of this Prussian state. A small group of neo-Nazis reportedly has threatened his life, causing Berma to spend a lot of time in West Berlin. Berma is not the only beneficiary of West German help. Well-off individuals and businesses from beyond the wall already are trying to take advantage of the crisis economy and the switch to capitalism in East Germany. No matter who wins this election, it looks as though the real power in East Germany will be a long way from here, in the West German capital of Bonn. That's where the purse strings are. Bert Quint, CBS News, Potsdam, East Germany.
At 1,184,880 miles, a Mercedes-Benz 180D is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's most durable car. Just how far can a Mercedes actually go? Frankly, nobody knows.
Long after getting stitches, many kids still remember the pain. That's why 3M invented a deceptively simple alternative to stitches: Steri-Strip adhesive skin closures. Applied by doctors, they eliminate the pain of stitches and lessen the chance of infection. Thanks to 3M technology, painful stitches can be just a memory. 3M, innovation working for you.
In South Africa, excitement over the release of Nelson Mandela from prison appears to be waning. Few people showed up for a rally in Soweto today, and it was canceled. Richard Wagner reports on Mandela's Day and what's ahead.
Nelson Mandela took it easy today in Soweto at the end of his first week of freedom after 27 years as a political prisoner. In Alexandra, another of the black ghettos around Johannesburg, a demonstration recalling violent clashes with the security forces in the mid-'80s went off without incident. The police are continuing to maintain a low profile in this new era of accommodation between this country's blacks and the government. After his day of rest, Mandela faces a busy schedule. He has 2 speeches on his agenda this week and a series of meetings with advisors. He's expected, within the next week or 2, to travel to Lusaka, Zambia, to confer with the exiled leadership of the African National Congress. And he's indicated he would like to visit Sweden, India, Canada, and possibly other countries as time permits. He's also been invited to Washington by President Bush. As this nation's blacks continue their peaceful protests, observers here speculate the next major concession on the part of the government could be the lifting of the 4-year-old state of emergency. The government might make that move, analysts say, in exchange for the ANC renouncing its policy of armed resistance to apartheid. Richard Wagner, CBS News, Johannesburg.
Most credit cards advance you cash, but then immediately take interest back and keep on taking it. But now you can get cash interest-free with your Discover card. Just pay your balance every month, and for a small transaction fee, we'll give you the cash interest-free. So take it from us, instead of giving it to them. It pays to Discover.
There's a revolution stirring. It's changing the way people drink their coffee, the way they sip their tea, even the way they bake. It's new Sweet One, the only sugar substitute made with the European ingredient Sunnet. Sweet One gives you a clean, sweet taste, but just 4 little calories. Taste new Sweet One. It's the taste that's causing a stir.
Czechoslovakia's reluctant president, the once jailed poet and playwright Václav Havel, visits Washington this week, and the background music will be the continuing and uneven pace of change in Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe today is so different than it was 6 months ago. Communism is gone. The Warsaw Pact is virtually dead.
The question now for the newly liberated nations of the East Bloc, what's next? How do they escape the past? It's time, say the experts, for some new thinking in the U.S. as well as in the USSR.
We can no longer think of Eastern Europe as a bloc. We must now think of each country in the region in its own light, with its unique history, aspirations, and potential.
What that means is that the U.S. intends to judge each emerging East Bloc nation on how quickly it moves toward democratic government and a market economy. And in some cases, those reforms are likely to be easier than in others. Czechoslovakia, for example, benefits from the previous experience of democracy and has already begun to set free its economy as it seeks Western investment. But its new president, Václav Havel, a poet and playwright, isn't likely to ask for anything on this week's visit.
Havel is a spirit. He's not a negotiator. He's a man of ideas, not of details. We're in a phase of evolution of a whole new concept of Europe, and I think Václav Havel has some ideas on that.
That's the news this Sunday night. I'm Bill Plant in New York. Good night, and have a good week.
The preceding program was a videotape presentation of a newscast seen earlier on CBS.
This week on CBS This Morning, singer and Grammy nominee Richard Marx, Kevin Costner on his new movie Revenge, plus Victoria Principal. This week on CBS This Morning. This is CBS.
We finally did it. We switched to a waterbed.
From Big Sur Waterbeds. This solid wood bedroom was just over $15 a month.
We got a queen-size waterbed that fits perfectly in our small bedroom.
A 6-drawer pedestal for under-bed storage.
Plus this great-looking entertainment center.
About $15 a month for all this solid wood furniture, 11 drawers of storage, and the best sleep we've ever had.
No wonder Big Sur is America's largest.
Big Sur Waterbeds, 71 showrooms nationwide.
I called because I was sick of dating jerks.
Inside Edition investigates a school that takes hundreds of hours of your time, thousands of dollars of your money, and leaves you with a degree in despair. Reading, writing, and rip-offs on the next Inside Edition.
Monday at 5 on WSBT TV.